Welcome back. We'll start with a new topic, influenza. So, what is influenza? It's an acute respiratory tract infection caused by influenza virus, which is of three types: influenza A, influenza B, and influenza C. So, the types of influenza virus, based on the types, there are different bases. Okay. Uh, First is about symptom, age group, effect, divided, epidemics, and experience. So, in the symptom, type A gives moderate to severe in symptoms, type B mild, and type C mild. Age group, it affects all the age group. Type B affects only primarily children, and type C affects on all the children or all the people. And type A will affect the humans and animal. Type B will affect only the human. Type C also affects only human. And type A is subdivided based on the antigenic differences. Type B divided, not divided into subtypes, and type C also not divided. And the type A epidemic is widespread. Type B is regional. Type C is don't cause, which will not cause any epidemics. And type A, it is mostly experienced, and type B is less common than type A, and type C is rarely reported. Okay, most of the time we won't see the type C viruses, but type A is mostly common. At present, three type of influenza virus are circulating in the world: A, H1N1, another A virus is H3N2, and B virus. So, what are the epidemiological determinants? Agent. Influenza virus are classified within the family Orthomyxoviridae, and their three viruses are antigenetically distinct. So, the influenza taxonomy, families Orthomyxoviridae, and generalize influenza A, B, and C. And species, again, influenza A virus, influenza B virus, and influenza C virus. Influenza A virus has two distinct surface antigen, the hemagglutinin H and the neuraminidase N, that is HN. This is the virus. And reservoir of infection, major reservoir of human influenza virus exists in animals and birds. Okay, it is commonly found in the animal and bird. And source, a case or subclinical case is the source of infection. Through the case or subclinical case, this infection will be spread to the other person. Period of infectivity, virus is present in the nasopharynx from 1 to 2 days before and 1 to 2 days after the onset of symptoms. Okay, when the symptom starts, 1 to 2 days before the symptom and after the symptom, there will be virus present in the nasopharynx. The host factor, influenza affects all ages and both the gender. Attack rate is lower among adults, and children constitute an important link in the transmission chain. Okay, in the adult it is less common, but children act as a common source of infection, and they will spread very fast. Human mobility is considered to be an important factor in the spread of infection. Okay, due to the human mobility means they will transfer from one area to another area, migration. So through this there will be transfer of infection. Immunity to influenza is subtype specific. Antibodies against H and Na are important in immunity to influenza. Antibodies should be produced against the H and N, what we have seen already. Against this, if there is any antibodies, then it will act as a immunity to influenza. Antibodies appear in about 7 days after the attack and reach a maximum level in about 2 weeks. Within the when the infection starts, within 7 days there will be starting of antibody production, and it will reach the peak level in about 2 weeks. And environmental factors, the season, it usually occurs in the winter months in the northern hemisphere, and tropical countries the virus circulates throughout the year with 1 or 2 peaks in the winter. So in the winter months, if you go to the northern hemisphere, it affects during the winter month. But when you go to the tropical countries, The virus is present throughout the year, and peak level will be in the winter time. Overcrowding enhances the transmission, and the attack rate are high in close population groups like school, institutions, ships, etc. There will be more chance of transmission of viruses. The mode of transmission spread mainly from person to person by droplet infection or droplet nuclei created by sneezing, coughing, or talking. Okay? Through the droplet infection, this virus will be transmitted to other person. The portal of entry of the virus is through respiratory tract, and the incubation period is 18 to 72 hours. So what are the pathogenesis and clinical features? The virus enters the respiratory tract and causes inflammation and necrosis of superficial epithelium of the tracheal and bronchial mucosa, followed by secondary bacterial invasion. Okay. So it will enter the respiratory tract and causes the inflammation, and later the superficial cell will be dead or called as necrosis. There will be necrosis of the superficial epithelium of the trachea and bronchial mucosa, and later there will be secondary bacterial invasion. Bacterial infection will start. There is no viremia. Okay, there will be no virus in the blood or a load of virus in the blood. The symptoms include fever, chill, aches and pain, coughing, and generalized weakness. So, what are the symptoms if you consider the systems? The central nervous system, it is headache, and the nasopharynx, there will be runny or stuffy nose, sore throat, and aches. And systemic, there will be fever. Muscular, there will be tiredness. Respiratory tract, there is coughing, and gastric system, that is vomiting, and joint, there will be aches. H1N1 disease symptoms were systematically there was fever and psychological lethargy and lack of appetite. Respiratory, there is coughing, and nasopharynx, runny nose and sore throat. Intestinal, there is diarrhea, and gastric, nausea and vomiting. These are the symptoms of influenza A or H1N1 disease. Fever lasts from 1 to 5 days, averaging 3 days in adults. Okay, it is within 1 to 5 days the fever will last, but in average when you see it is 3 days in the adult. Frequent complications are acute sinusitis, otitis media, purulent bronchitis, and pneumonia. Okay, there will be sinusitis and otitis media, that is inflammation of the middle ear, and purulent pus formation in the after the bronchitis, and pneumonia. This we have seen already, influenza symptoms. The most dreaded complication is pneumonia, which should be suspected if the fever persists about 4 to 5 days or recurs abruptly after convulsions. If the fever is there for 4 to 5 days or they will be recurrent, that means with one day it is not there, again suddenly it will start the fever, and there is a gap in between the fever. If anything occurs, if such symptoms occurs, then it shows that the person is having pneumonia. So immediately we should refer to the hospital. So what are the main symptoms of infectious pneumonia? Okay, if it is caused through the influenza, what are the main symptoms? In the systematic, there is high fever and chills, and skins, there will be clamminess and blueness. Central nervous system, there is headache, loss of appetite and mood swing. Vascular, low blood pressure. Lungs, cough with sputum or phlegm. Shortness of breath, pruritic chest pain, and hemoptysis. Hemoptysis means the blood in the sputum. And the heart, there is high heart rate, gastric, nausea and vomiting, and joint, there will be pain. And in the muscular system, fatigue and ache. So these are the main symptoms of pneumonia. So what is Ray's syndrome? It is fatty liver with encephalopathy. It's a rare and severe complication of influenza. It's common in children. This condition often progresses to hepatic failure. Fatty liver, that liver will be enlarged due to fatty production or storage. With encephalopathy, there will be complication in the brain. It's a complication of influenza, commonly seen in the children, and sometimes there will be hepatic failure also. So laboratory diagnosis is done by virus isolation, serology, and ELISA. Virus isolation. Nasopharyngeal secretions are the best specimens for obtaining large amount of virus infected cells. Okay? Nasopharyngeal swab, if you take, you will get the virus. The virus can be detected by the indirect fluorescent antibody technique, okay, the technique we use in the laboratory. And serological tests using hemagglutination inhibition and ELISA. Okay, through these two tests we can confirm, and ELISA test is more accurate than others. And the prevention, optimal preventive measures include good ventilation of public building. Okay, good ventilation should be there. Avoidance of crowded places during epidemic. Protection at individual level. Encouraging the sufferers to cover their faces with handkerchief when coughing and sneezing. To stay at home at the first sign of influenza. The vaccine is not recommended to control spread in the general population. In view of changing antigenic structures, antigenic shift, antigenic drift, new vaccines are constantly required. If any changes in the antigenic property, the new vaccine may require. So it is not recommended in the general population. Since epidemics of influenza are unpredictable, the hope of preventing influenza epidemics by prophylactic mass vaccination is remote. Okay? Usually we do the mass vaccination, okay, of the people to prevent this influenza epidemic. Since influenza vaccines will not control epidemics, they are recommended only in certain selected population group. Okay? Only during the industry to reduce absenteeism, and among public servants to prevent disruption of critical public services like police force, transport, and medical. Only for these people there will be vaccination. Okay? So what are the types of influenza vaccine? First is killed vaccine. Second is most influenza vaccination programs make use of inactivated vaccines. Okay? The virus will be inactivated here. The flu vaccine is available through shot, that is injection, and through nasal spray. The recommended vaccine strains for vaccine production are grown in the allantoic cavity of developing chick embryos, harvested, purified, killed by formalin or beta-propylactin, and standardized according to the hemagglutinin. So, how the vaccine is produced? These are the technique. You will use chick embryos. It will be harvested, purified, and killed by formalin or beta-propylactin, and thereafter it is standardized according to the hemagglutinin. The vaccine is conventionally formulated in aqueous or saline suspension. Okay? And the one dose of the vaccine contains approximately 15 micrograms of HA. That is the what we see in H and N. Okay, hemagglutinin. So this is the vaccine, influenza. The vaccine is administered by the subcutaneous or intramuscular route. Okay, it can be administered through subcutaneous or intramuscular route, and the single inoculation, that is 0.5 ml for adult and children over 3 years, and 0.2 ml for children from 6 months to 36 months of age is usually given. Okay, if the children is over 3 years, 0.5 ml of vaccination is given, or the children is between 6 to 36 months, 0.25 ml is given. This is the deep muscular injection. After vaccination, there is an increase in the serum antibody in about 2 weeks. Okay, where antibody will start production and it will reach in 2 weeks. The protective value of the vaccine varies between 70 to 90%. Okay, the success rate is 70 to 90%. Revaccination on annual basis is recommended if the person is living in the epidemic area. And live attenuated vaccines. A trivalent live attenuated influenza vaccine administered as a single dose intranasal spray is an effective as inactivated vaccine in preventing the influenza. Okay, even the live attenuated vaccine also shows same effect as inactivated vaccines. A nasal vaccination. The nasal spray or a flu vaccine, a vaccine made with live weakened flu viruses that do not cause the flu. Okay. The viruses will be alive, but it will not cause any flu because it is weakened. Okay. Sometimes it is called as LAIV for live attenuated influenza vaccine or flu mist. It is approved for use in otherwise healthy individuals between the age of 2 and 49 years. Okay, this nasal spray is used between the age group of 2 to 49 years. Because the risk of transmission of the live attenuated vaccine virus to immunocompromised individual is unknown. Okay, how the infection is spread to the immunocompromised patient, it is unknown. Okay, but it should not be used in household members of immunosuppressed individuals, healthcare workers, or other with close contact with the immunosuppressed individual. Okay, this will not be used with the household member whoever of immunosuppressed individual or healthcare worker or others who are coming close contact with the immunosuppressed individual. So what are the contraindications? Vaccine should not be administered to people who have severe allergy to chicken egg, individual with anaphylactic reaction, individual with the GB syndrome, that is Guillain-Barré syndrome, and children less than 6 months. For these people, we cannot give this vaccine. Antiviral drug. Due to the limitation in the efficacy of influenza vaccine, antiviral drugs have been tried for the prophylaxis and therapy. Okay, prophylaxis and therapy we can use antiviral drugs. Two neuraminidase inhibitor, that is zanamivir and oseltamivir, are available for prophylaxis and treatment of influenza A and B. So these are the two antiviral drugs we can use. The dose of oseltamivir is 75 mg per day for prophylaxis and 75 mg twice daily for 5 days for therapy. This is the Tamiflu. Zanamivir is administered by inhaler, that is 10 mg per dose, 10 mg dose, and is given twice daily for therapy and once daily for prophylaxis. What are the current recommendation of treatment for influenza A? It is zanamivir, or a combination of oseltamivir and the rimetadine. It's a combination we are giving for the treatment of influenza A. And influenza B, either oseltamivir or zanamivir can be given. For chemoprophylaxis against influenza A, zanamivir should be used, and if it is contraindicated, rimetadine can be used. In outbreak associated with influenza B, either oseltamivir or zanamivir can be used for the prophylaxis. Okay, if there is an outbreak of influenza B, you can give oseltamivir or zanamivir. So that's what about the influenza. We'll see in the next chapter. Thank you.